Hello, you're welcome to the next MP. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest started his professional career in the corporate world, has transitioned to academia, and now wants to represent the good people of DADEKOTOPON in the Greater Accra region of this beautiful country of ours, Ghana. He is responsible for taking out a former Deputy Minister of Communications in the person of the Honorable Vincent Sowa Odote, the current MP, lame duck MP for DADEKOTOPON. Can he go one step better to actually become the representative of the people of that constituency come December 7, 2020? My guest is none other than Joseph Gerald TETTEH. NYANYOFIO. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Before we even talk about how you managed to take out the Honorable MP, let's talk a little bit about current issues or just fresh issues. Let's talk about the voters registration, which ended on the 6th of August. How did that turn out in your constituency?
Well, I must say thank you once again for having me. And I'm sure with the structures put in place by the Electoral Commission, everything went on smoothly as anticipated. We have a total of about 120,000 participants registering within the constituency. It was incident-free, and we have the numbers. We know which electoral area has which numbers, and on the basis of that, we roll out our campaign strategy. So it has been well and good. What
were some of the challenges that you experienced in the couple of weeks that have passed, ending in this exercise being ended? Yeah.
You know, it's a new register we want to have and clean the then existing one. So the challenge was actually getting the people to come and register.
People didn't want to register?
You know, there were fears about COVID infection and all that. So we had to sensitize them that the safety protocols were in place and they needed to come and exercise their franchise. On the basis of that, they would be able to vote and even transact with the card on several fronts. So getting them was a bit difficult from the onset, but eventually we have the numbers. 120,000 people is something to write home about. So though the challenges were there, they were not unsurmountable.
How would you grade the performance of the Electoral Commission in this just ended exercise?
Well, it was a very difficult task. At some point, you had machines breaking down and they had to quickly intervene to fix and also, you know, move their men around and also provide the needed incentives for them. So they were adequately prepared for this exercise and rightly they have discharged.
So if you were to grade them, what would you give them?
I don't deal with numbers when it comes to this.
You're a lecturer.
Yeah, so that's why it's difficult for me.
A, B, or C?
I would definitely give them an A because it was a really daunting task and they really surmounted.
Good. And just before we jump into things political with your constituency, we are currently in the WASI period, and we're getting reports around the country of students really misbehaving, you know, feeling that they should be given some leeway in the invigilating of their exams. As a lecturer, what do you make of these cases of students attacking, invigilators attacking students, like attacking teachers? What do you make of all of that?
Well, it was really unfortunate. It was really unfortunate. But then, you know, youthful exuberance that comes with, you know, student life. We have also been there before, even at the university level when it comes to the activities of students. You see the elderly sometimes behaving like kids. And to that extent, that is pardonable. But then for a society such as ours, where we know that structures really work, and we have a respect for the elderly. We thought that at this stage, some of these things will be a thing of the past. And so it was unfortunate to come to terms with that reality. But I'm sure the institutions of the state would call the boys to order and the appropriate sanctions will be meted out to them as a deterrent to others not to engage in such activity.
How were you able to take out the Honorable Vincent Odote in your primaries in June? Considering that he has a lot of clout.
That's true.
Known very well in the football circles, in the political circles, and the communications ministry. How do you do that?
Yeah, in fact, my brother is one individual you can term as the big man. He's a big man. He's a big fish in the scheme of things. You look at, again, the sports fraternity, and then within the political space, he's a big fish. But then, politics is about relationships. Politics is about you drawing strength from your followers. So that connection with the people should be able to sustain us in government. And also, it's a social contract between you, the politician, and the people who elected you. You have made some promises to them, and you are going to be measured on the basis of those promises. And so if you fall short of those promises, you are likely to suffer eventually for that.
What promises did he make to the people of Lai?
I thought the interview is about myself.
No, but you took out somebody who is quite major. He cannot say 4 more for Odote because you are responsible for that. You knocked him out.
Yeah.
You had 543 votes versus his 376.
Yeah.
That's a huge achievement. I want to know how you did it.
Well, it's not about me and my person. It's about the people. We had 120 delegates, 960 voted, and the overwhelming majority voted in my favor. It's about the message and the connection. I presented a different alternative to them. But then, even before the delegates voting, they were having the general election in mind, that who is it that can carry us into that promised land, that victory, to retain the seat in December. And so, looking at the chances of the party within the constituency, for our brother, the incumbent, having served in the last 3 years, our chances were looking very bleak. And
why?
Okay, so why? First of all, like I said, it's about the relationship with the people. And there are key stakeholders within the constituency. And an MP, even though your primary function is to make laws and represent the interest of the constituency, you also have a responsibility to the people to be accountable to them, to connect with them, to,
I mean, I get that.
Give them that respect, visibility, accessibility, and all that. Perhaps the people felt that he was not on the ground much, and so they wanted an alternative. And even really, I can say on authority that if we had not effected this change, the chances of the elephant retaining the seat would have been very difficult.
You're sure of that?
That's the will of the people. It's not about me sitting here.
Okay, let me tell you about what you said. You said he doesn't have anything concrete or productive to show for his 4-year mandate so far. You said this when you went to visit the Adobeto electoral area.
That is right.
Yes.
That is right.
Nothing concrete?
To say nothing concrete is relative.
These are your words.
So this is what I mean. As a member of parliament, there are some visible, let's say, signs or evidence of deliverables in the constituency. He did some toilets for the indigenous enclave where you have most of the people engaging in open defecation, and then got some DSTVs for the guys in the various ghettos. And there was a crèche in the constituency where it was then taking about 58 students, and he tried to improve on the intake. But then
then he did free NHIS registration
for children up to a certain age, and then the elderly.
Those were not concrete achievements?
Good. That's what I'm saying. As a member of a ruling government, we felt that this is the least you can do for your constituency. As an MP, I said that your primary function is to make laws and represent the interest of the community. But then a portion of the common fund and other payments are made available to you. As also as an MP, you have to use your network, social network, to lobby for projects for the constituency, including courting private investment, to support the constituency in the area of generating employment for the youth, and also for projects like infrastructure projects in the area of health.
You wanted your MP to be a jobs contractor?
Not really, but you see, this is not rocket science. Other MPs are doing it. Looking at the constituency in which we find ourselves, which sits virtually on gold, we have the only international airport sited on our land. If you are not aware, the airport is part of our constituency. Trade fair area, 5-star hotels are on our land. The United States of America has its embassy on our land. A lot of multinational corporations are sited on our land, and we felt that moving away from your primary function of making laws in Parliament, you should also put your eyes on the ground and court these private parties and players to attract some support for the constituency, including getting some job allocations or slots for our people, and also using your portion of the common fund and other statutory payments to support and target some core areas that would have a ripple effect on development of the constituency.
So I know your constituency includes La Bema Camp, North Laboni, South Labadi, Cantonments, Airport, East Cantonments, and you have all these, and you yourself said that you have security headquarters, embassies, 4- and 5-star hotels, and the airport.
Yeah.
So you were expecting the MP to go to these people, knock on the doors and say, listen, I'm the MP for La, give my people jobs.
It's very possible.
Is that what you wanted him to do?
It's very possible, looking at the condition in which our people find themselves. Well, this interview, like I said, it's not about my senior brother.
So is that what you do? Let's
yes, I will
knock on the doors of
vigorously
Labadi Beach Hotel,
establish a functional
Mahogany
system.
Lodge, and then you ask for jobs for your people?
I will establish a functional system. If the MP is not going to knock physically, the system should be able to work to get those private parties, including using a portion of their corporate social responsibility to support the community. And I'm saying that this is not rocket science. The MP may not necessarily go, but there is a party structure in place and other key stakeholders within the constituencies who can do that on behalf of the constituency, on behalf of the MP, And so we felt that there is more that we could have done to support the community, because the community needs development.
Did you think he was competent?
This is a very dicey one. You are dragging me into an area I don't want to go. The era of my senior brother is gone, and it is my battle ahead of me. So I should be focusing on what I will be doing different or what I'm bringing to the table. And so let's tilt the discussion towards that direction.
So your slogan on your posters was Rescue La MPP 2020. That assumes that La was sinking.
Yeah, it would have been very difficult for us to retain the seat because as we speak now, you give a background to the history of our elections in the constituency. Yes, rightly so. The NDC has been on the seat for 20 years. We have done, plus this term, we have done 8 years. The question is, how is that possible? Normally, depending on the candidate and his connection and influence within the constituency, the people are ready to give you the mandate irrespective of your political background. And so the slogan, the mantra, Rescue La NPP, was to say that, well, our brother has fallen out of love with the people, and the people were ready to vote out the MP and the president. So we needed somebody, an alternative, to engage the people and give them fresh hope why they should retain the president and also the party within the constituency.
Haven't you put a rather unfair burden on the current MP, the outgoing MP, because he doesn't control the budget of LADMA, the La Dadekotopon Municipal Assembly.
Yeah. But it has a portion of
a huge budget. The last time I checked, for 2019 alone, there was like 26 million CDs that they were expecting as revenue. He doesn't control that. So why blame him for the misfortunes of the constituency?
You see, an MP is entitled to a portion of the common fund, which is statutory. Plus, we said an MP should be able to engage the world to court private interest to come and support the constituency. We are not blaming him. The constituency has been like this for as long as the annals remain. But then, we look around us and other MPs are doing similar interventions.
So you are envious of those other MPs?
We are not envious, but then, in fact, to use them as even a case study may be mediocre. But then an MP should be able to use the political office, leverage political office, the resources and authority to bring them, attract the necessary support for the constituency. This is as basic and abstract as it is, but then you add the T's, you dot the T's and the,
Which is what you think you can do if you are elected?
By the grace of God.
But if for you to be elected, you have to go through your opponent. Your biggest opponent, it must be Rita Odole Sowa.
Former MC.
Former MC, former municipal chief executive, representing the NDC. She wants to be the very first female MP of La Dadekotopon.
Yeah.
And considering that her party has just chosen a female candidate for the vice presidential slot, and this whole drive to have women in higher positions, she may be riding on that wave to destroy your ambition. She was quite popular. She had 902 votes versus 338 in her primaries. And, well, she's done a lot of things in her term as MCE. I was looking at her list of achievements. She says, well, she provided a police post at Chado, the main road linking the community, started a walkway to the schools, and then the La Market project, quite a few things. And she's been doing her PPE donations as it is with COVID. How formidable a foe is she, and what are your chances against her?
Well, I think the party machinery would have to work here. Winning an election is not a function of an individual.
But you blame the
no, I mean, MP to win an election
for messing up. So why don't you also...
Yeah, an individual can mess up, but as a collective entity, we win an election. My senior brother, Vincent Odote, never won the election by himself.
Yes.
So the party
but he's out
machinery,
of the seat now because he lost an election by himself.
Drumming home a point. So it's about the collective aspiration of the people. It's about the party structures and the strategies that we are going to roll out to go into the elections and the euphoria that has greeted our primaries and the emergence of Gerald, my candidates ahead of the primaries in December, gives us hope that I'll be the preferred choice and not Rita Odole.
She's quite popular, Nyao Papa, which is good mother.
That's a slogan.
If
you get into the community, you might be...
What is your nickname there?
You might be disappointed to find that she may not necessarily be Nyao Papa.
She's not Nyao Papa. What is your nickname? What do they call you?
Well, not yet. Some people have carved one Wonder Boy for me, but I keep telling them I'm not a boy, I'm a man.
So obviously she's your biggest threat. And the NDC have held that seat for quite some time. It's 20 years.
Yeah.
The
dynamics have long changed.
They've long changed?
Yes.
What has changed?
Well, like I mentioned, the candidate is one, and the party structures and the strategies we are going to roll out also can make a lot of difference. And so we shouldn't rely on the past glory that NDC has been there. One honorable Amasano Mali has been there for 12 years without any visible evidence of what he has actually done for the community. So we have to divorce ourselves from that tag that we are an NDC people and we are NPP people. We should base our conversation on issues and having the future in sight. And that's what's most important at this point, and not really the identity of the people being NDC or NPP.
But you must admit that if you do your analysis, because of her time as the municipal chief executive, she will have a lot of goodwill and connections and clout amongst the people who matter, the decision makers, the community people. I mean, I know you are strong in the community with the various community organizations that you've been part of, the La Citizens Network, the youth associations, the La Gadangbe. I know you're strong there. But she's equally strong in those, and she's also had the benefit of serving under a ruling government for quite some time. Yes.
Yeah, that's no threat at all. We are going to work very hard until our primaries. Nobody really knew me, and what we could bring on board. They felt I was an underdog, and Vincent Odote was the big fish and all that. And you look at the margin at the primaries, that can also send a signal that indeed it's not about really Ritanoma Odole, who has been there and held that MCE position for some time. It is also the strength in the team that is managing our campaign. And on the basis of that, I'm sure we are going to make a difference.
How's the campaign going so far?
Well, we just ended, yesterday was the end of the last phase of the registration exercise. We are going to have the mop-up, but that we are not sure of the outcome. Along the line, we're trying to talk to people to go and register. We're also trying to be there for them with some PPEs to support them and do one-on-one aggressive contacting and all that. Now we are going to fully roll out the strategy. I'm not sure if I should share here.
I'm all ears.
Obviously, we will be doing house-to-house campaign and a few other things that are up my sleeves. Okay. And when the moment of truth comes, I will unravel them.
You're watching the next MP. My guest is Joseph Gerald TETTEH NYANYOFIO. He is the MPP's parliamentary candidate for DADEKOTOPON. And when we return, we'll talk about the constituency, what the issues are there, and how he feels that he can represent them fully should he win the election in December. Stay with us. Yo, welcome to the next MP. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest is the MPP's parliamentary candidate for DADEKOTOPON in the Greater Accra region, Joseph Gerald TETTEH NYANYOFIO. And we're going to talk about DADEKOTOPON for a couple of minutes. So this particular constituency was established in 2012. It covers 36 square kilometers of really prime property. We are covering La Bema Camp, South La, North La Boni, Cantonments, Airport. You know, these are addresses that everybody would love to be part of. And I was checking out the program-based budget estimates for 2019. Estimated revenue was 26.4 million cedis. There's a lot of money coming from property rates, from permits, from royalties. Your district, your constituency should really be ranking high in terms of, you know, physical infrastructure and facilities. Right. But it's not. How do you feel about that? And what would you do to reverse the situation should you be elected MP?
Kafui, I thought you said I'm not a development agent. Anyway, so all this is about relationships, like I said. For an MP, you should be able to engage all the development agents. There's two, again, the municipality or the municipal assembly, and then all these private operators on the land. If we could generate so much by way of IGF, we should be able to target some core areas to intervene and to drive development within the constituency. Like I said, we should be able to... IGF being internally generated funds.
And it's only 30% of that 26 million. You think you could how would you generate more?
For all you know, a lot of revenue has not been collected. Property rates, business rates, and all. Fines and all that. We should be able, and government has aggressively digitized the payment system so that there wouldn't be leakages within the system, so that enough revenue will be retained for development. And these are areas that we should be all concerned about, focus vigorously and ensure that there is enough resource available, not just availability of resources, but then the application of resource should be looked at critically. And so when we get there, we'll be able to support with the little background we have in public sector management to move the constituency to the level it deserves.
You must have a plan, though. I don't think you're going to wait to get elected before you roll out, you know, your ideas. I mean, in terms of public sector management, and that's one of the things that you lecture in. I mean, what's your blueprint for DADEKOTOPON? Your education and your experience must benefit your people.
Of course, of course. Well, we should, on our own, be able to do a lot to augment what the government is doing within the constituency. And so in the area of education, there should be some scholarship arrangements for brilliant but needy students. If there is the need for classroom infrastructure and library resources, we should be able to furnish those institutions with those adequate logistics. Then if you're looking at the area of health, we well know a healthy mind resides in a healthy body. We should have adequate health infrastructure in place. Again, these are the Human Development Index has to do with education, health, and then standard of living. And so we should be able to target these areas constructively in a way that can be measured over time and track performance, so that in no time we can move the constituency to the level it deserves. And so these are all issues on the drawing board that will roll out, not only by my person. I'm not superhuman, but then with the adequate engagement with the requisite people with the right technical background, we'll be able to do a lot for the constituency.
The people should call you Wonder Man, because you're going to come, hopefully you will come and perform wonders for them.
Well, to say that would be an exaggeration, but then we should be able to work collectively as a team. And we often say that a leader is, or a manager is someone who gets results through others. And so where the MP may not be physically present, we should be able to have the right hands managing affairs.
A significant part of your constituency borders the Gulf of Guinea, so you have lots of coastal settlements there. And you know, in this era of climate change and strange weather, you know, you may have issues of the sea level, flooding, informal settlements. I mean, as an aspiring MP, as I see on your posters, what thoughts have you given to dealing with problems like that?
Well, I'm sure the Assembly has quite a number of technical people, and recently there were attempts to engage some Italians to come and do some sea defense projects for us. It's one thing we should be able to revisit, even though in my adult life, well, I've done almost 40 years and I don't see the sea moving further. That notwithstanding, we should be able to have a mechanism in place to address it.
But there's erosion, or there's flooding all the time, it rains and floods.
Not to our part of town. We're fortunate. In fact, my father's land ends close to the sea.
And the sea hasn't affected it?
It has never affected us significantly, except that it changes the atmospheric condition and affects some appliances at home. But then these are issues human beings cannot fully assume control over. But all we need to do is to have adequate technical expertise to mitigate their effects and impact on our people. And so when the moment of truth comes, we should be able to address some of these things.
A lot of these things will be addressed depending on your engagement with the communities.
Key stakeholders within the community.
So, and you've been a member of quite a few of them, you know, so the La Youth
Clubs Association,
La
and
Citizens
then
Network,
La Citizens Network, then
Cola,
Coalition of La Youth Association, and then we also
La
have
Gandambe
Gandambe Association.
What kind of conversations are you having with them? I mean, I'm just praying that it's not just for festivals and football games and things like that. What kind of conversations are you having with these very significant community groups?
Yeah, our issues range from sanitation to protecting the aspiration of unborn generations. So, in fact, our hands are really full with the issues, and as and when the issues emerge, in fact, we are even actually proactive in some instances to engage key stakeholders to address some issues.
Give me one example of your proactivity.
Well, we know the government has taken over most part of our land space. If it's not for private development, for government institution, you know, having its headquarters or office on our lands. But still we have some spaces available, and most of the youth groups are agitating. They want government to get some of the land to revert back to the original owners by law.
Is that realistic?
That's an area I really would not want to delve deep into, because it's an issue
when they elect you, if they elect you as MP, they will want you to be a voice for them.
Good. So I would engage them to give me their position. I will advise them on their position, and on the basis of that, we would have a clear-cut direction. I would not want to be here to profess or pontificate a direction that would be at variance with their position.
No, that's fair. So let's stick to some of the sentiments that have been expressed in the past, because that has happened already. What are the kind of things that they are saying about
some are really sensitive.
Land,
some are really sensitive, and our people felt that the military enclave, a portion of it should revert back to us, since we are almost being sort of
in.
Yeah,
are you talking about Burma camp?
The whole of Burma camp.
To where the new cemetery is? Is that all our land?
All our land, and some part of the cantonment, Laboni areas. And in fact, we have an army of lawyers and chiefs in the helm of affairs who are engaging the government on some of these fronts.
Okay.
And
what is their ultimate goal? What would be the best case scenario for them and the worst case scenario? Okay,
so I think their strength really is drawn from the law that requires that when a property, a landed property, or land is acquired for a particular public purpose, and the government is no longer interested in that particular purpose, it should revert to the original owners rather than divest its interest and then it reverts to a private person.
So it should come back to the chiefs.
It will come back to the chiefs.
Okay.
And so that has been our primary concern. And it has been back and forth. I cannot say I am superhuman. We have had a Speaker of Parliament within the constituency before who is an indigene. And we would look at...
Okwe.
I'm talking about Peter Alajiti.
Alajiti, okay.
And a host of other seasoned lawyers within the constituency. And so I'm sure that issue is before them. I will add my voice depending on their position to ensure that the interest of the constituency is not shortchanged.
Was Honorable Odote, current MP, supposed to have been leading this particular fight? And could that be one of the reasons why people were not happy with him?
Can I take the Fifth Amendment?
We're in Ghana. Fifth Amendment belongs to the USA. What was his? I mean, it's a continuum. So what did he do to advance the interest of the La people?
I picked snippets of gossips that, when it was needed most to support some of these, agenda, he was not too forthcoming with his commitment, and on the basis of that, some people were not too happy. And so it's an area I have learned from. I've taken a lot of notes from that particular occurrence, and I'll be guided basing on the judgment of the elders. I'll know which direction to pursue on this matter.
Okay, we've talked about the best case scenario, that whatever is supposed to revert should revert to the chiefs, not to any private interests.
Yeah. In fact, it's very turning because there is this assumption that the stool doesn't own lands and that Ghana lands are owned by families. So not necessarily revert back to the chiefs. But I don't want to be quoted to be saying that I said land should revert back to the stool.
So to the families.
To the rightful families.
Families, okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you call way in Ghana?
Way,
okay.
yes.
So the land should go back to the particular clans.
Clans.
Okay.
So within the clans we have families, houses. So depending on which house owns a particular land, they want it to revert back to that particular house.
Okay.
Sometimes even within the house, it's just a family line that owns the land. So it's a very funny situation.
It's quite complex.
A young MP like myself wouldn't want to meddle in.
But I know you are also an esteemed academic, and you are doing your research. You are used to getting the facts and making sure that you can present a good case.
You just have to show commitment that if this is the area they want to pursue, you just support them in any way that you can. But to be visibly absent from their activities and their interests, you are likely to court their disaffection, and that can be dangerous.
So you likely made some good promises to them that, listen, if you elect me, I will chase this
I wouldn't do that. I have often told them that I will rely on their counsel and their direction, because the lands are owned by people, stakeholders. So I wouldn't want to jump ahead of them and make promises and tell them what I am not even aware of. So I'm guided.
What's the worst case scenario?
As in,
what would you see as a total failure or a defeat as far as getting these lands to revert?
Oh, you want me to say that my people would embark on a demonstration? Is that what you want me to say?
I only ask a question. What is the worst case scenario?
Well, I think it's in the collective interest of our community that government would look into the merit of our case and do what is just and right to all manner of persons, not just in DADEKOTOPON, but anywhere that a community's interest is at stake, government, under the able leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, would do just to all manner of persons.
Let's talk about the constituency. In your eyes, what is the greatest challenge facing the people of DADEKOTOPON?
DADEKOTOPON?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you're quite a lot, it's quite a big constituency, over 250,000 people. About 250,000 people in that constituency. I mean, what are their greatest challenges? Top three, maybe.
So people would tell you that the youth are in the majority, and the current Ghana Living Standard Survey report suggests that the youth are about 60% of the population of LA.
That's a lot of people.
And such a huge number requires that there should be some interventions that will address their economic empowerment, human capital development issues.
You're talking jobs, right? Is it jobs?
Capacity building before jobs.
So
training in whatever way. It can be vocational, it can be technical, it can be formal, it can be entrepreneurial. You know, even if it is soccer, you are playing so well, there should be adequate training in place for you, how to manage your finances and even how to manage your pension. So human capacity building is very key on the agenda. Then apart from that, you can talk about infrastructure. But you see, there is a relationship. When you have people who are well developed, they can on their own take care of some of these infrastructural issues like getting 1 kilometer road in front of them, or even providing their own lighting within the community, or even taking care of their own sanitation. And so we should be able to engage with all the stakeholders and address the priority areas that can move the constituency to its next level.
Okay, I'm looking at the slogans on your poster. Yeah. So you have job creation, talent development, youth development. Do these summarize what you've just told me in terms of, so how are you going to create jobs for the youth?
To a very large extent, like I said, this is a summary of what I was alluding to. In terms of job creation, there are existing jobs within the system. Like I said, the corporate institutions are available and you just need to get a slot for the youth.
So what are you advocating? Maybe a quota? Labadi Beach Hotel must have a quota for the people of LA.
Oh yes, we have a local content policy, right?
Okay.
Which requires that corporations are corporate citizens, or institutions, private institutions are corporate citizens. So they must contribute their quota to supporting.
Is it enforceable? Can you enforce it?
It's about the MP and your network of relationship. How you are able to show that deep-seated concern for the people, and it's about communication to get this done. And also, particularly for me, I feel that we should think outside of the box. We shouldn't wait for central government to come and provide jobs for our men. And that's why government has initiated some projects, Student Entrepreneurial Initiative, under the auspices of the Ministry of Trade, and some other key funding available for young entrepreneurs in the system. We should be able to build, that's why I said that human development, capital development should be key. We should be able to build the capacity of our youth to be able to assess some of these interventions by the government, including the famous microfinance and small loan scheme, which is available for productive, core, poor people within
But you know the challenges with that, right? There are people who take the money and they don't pay. You know, Maslock
how much
has gone into issues. You know,
we should be able to provide the necessary training and counseling for these market women to be able to manage the funds very well, so that it can be a revolving fund for others to also benefit.
Okay. So training and jobs key. Also on your manifesto, quality education.
Okay.
What is that? Break it down for me.
Okay. So
are you going to build a school?
If need be, in fact, like I said, there are some private institutions that are building for their communities. Not even within the constituency, but you can court private interests outside of the constituency. There are so many NGOs outside of this country and within that are supporting such projects. So an MP should be able to spread his tentacles wide across the field and get some of these projects in place. Not just the physical classroom, but then adequate resourcing. We should be able to have libraries within these schools and whatever is necessary to promote quality education. And with my background in the area of education, we should also be able to monitor the delivery of teaching and learning within these institutions. We have men in the constituency who are also educationists, and some are even retired. We can rope them in to ensure that the government agenda and the syllabus content are being rigidly adhered to.
Talking of education, though, I mean, how are the schools doing? You have some really good schools in your constituency.
Yeah.
Aquinas, I believe, Laboni.
Laboni,
Yeah.
Demakam, there is
Demakam,
one, and
yeah.
La Presby Secondary School.
How do they rank vis-a-vis the other schools?
Well, as we often say, garbage in, garbage out. So then we should address the basic level. It's virtually free now. That's where, as an MP, like I said, we should be able to support them with all that they will need to make teaching and learning a quality one, so that we churn quality graduates from the basic level to the second cycle institutions, and on the basis of that they can progress. And so it's a whole value chain of training, and promoting quality, in which I would bring my experience, the little experience that I have, with the help of some other experienced people in the constituency, to bear on such agenda.
I'm sorry I have to bring up the name of the current MP again, but, well, one of his achievements was providing quality free education. Apparently for you it wasn't enough.
It was scratch.
Yes, but you have to start from a level.
Good. Good. You know, it
wasn't enough for him to retain the mandate of
my senior brother said he was paying 100,000 cedis every year into that facility, and we felt that 100,000 cedis for this project, we could as well use other means to promote that particular project. And there are NGOs that are supporting some of these initiatives. If we have our meager resources by way of the common fund, and we have 100,000 cedis every year, we could have channeled that to a more productive area at the top, the middle belt, where we are looking at job creation and entrepreneurial arrangement for the youth, so that people can then take care of their lads at those creches. And so we felt it was a misplaced priority.
Still on your manifesto, men and women empowerment.
Exactly.
Opportunity for all. I mean, they sound very generic. I mean, what do they mean? Okay,
so the empowerment, I've hinted on that there are some people without even employable skills within the community. The guys in the ghettos, there are so many people who have dropped out of school. And there are so many initiatives that we can roll out in vocational and technical training, like I said, sewing, catering, masonry, carpentry, and all that, to make them adequately prepared to be on their own. Because we have the penchant to go into a community as an MP to go and dash 5 Ghana cedis. Is
that what your opponent was doing?
It's as good as giving people bread to eat today and they'll be hungry tomorrow.
Was he giving them bread to eat today so that they're hungry tomorrow?
I wouldn't say that, but we often see that around as MPs doling out cash to people.
Was it happening at DADEKOTOPON?
I think it has been happening in some constituencies, I know.
So your current MP didn't do that?
I wouldn't say that. I'm trying to swerve that particular question. But most importantly, we should be able to give people life rather than physical money, which they will rely on today, and tomorrow they are back on the streets.
All right.
So the empowerment I was talking about is to put people on their feet so that they can engage the world on their own, take their destinies into their own hands.
Okay. Stay with us. You're watching The Next MP. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest is Joseph Gerald Ni TETTEH. NYANYOFIO. He's the MPP's candidate for DADEKOTOPON, the richest district in Ghana. And when we return, I shall pose to him some questions from our friends on Twitter, and he'll give us great answers, as usual. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. Thank you for staying with us. The next MP, my name is Kafui Dey. My guest is Mr. NYANYOFIO. He is the NPP's parliamentary candidate for the good people of DADEKOTOPON. And at this point, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. You know, before I came here, I threw out, I told them you were coming on the show, my people on Twitter, and they sent a couple of questions that they want you to answer, okay? So, tweeting at Samed_Sabali, he says, what will you do differently if you're elected?
I have taken a lot of lessons around this time that I have seen our delegates make a very difficult decision by taking out an incumbent member of parliament and putting me there. So I am going to ensure that I don't go on the same tangent that led us to where we are today. I'll be more visible and be more engaging with the constituents and key stakeholders within the constituency. Our constituency is a mix of everyone from all walks of this country. If you look at the indigenous area, we have the traditional people where I am coming from, the clans and all that. Laboni is has a semblance of an elitist community. Cantonment, Nyaniba, Airport, Burma Camp, they are different. All these are electoral areas that have different needs, and they are also well organized, looking at the churches and even the mosques. So right from the traditional council, which superintends over the entire constituency, they have their interest. I should be able to engage them to know their interest. And then the various electoral areas, what their interests are, and aggregate these, and we have to prioritize so that we can deliver on the mandate. And this will be more, I think it's a better alternative. Also having in mind that we have a very active, vibrant, local language speaking radio station within the community. I must be seen to be accountable to the people by regularly engaging them on my work, both in parliament and the interventions.
Is that
Lateno.
Yes, indeed.
And other radio stations within the community.
Okay.
I've had baptism of insults around this period. People telling me, where is the other MP? If he had come here, meaning that my brother was not engaging them enough. And so I've taken a lot of lessons to be more transparent and accountable to the people.
I hope you don't get any more baptisms of insults. So you you are one of 34 Davids who took down 34 Goliaths, talking about current MPs, sitting MPs, and you caused them to go into a state of depression after the primaries because Parliament was virtually empty after your victories. Now, Sultana the first _1 says, do you think that Honorable Odote was competent? That's his question.
The issue of competence is relative, but then what the generality of the people believe a man to be, whether the man is competent or not, that resides in the eyes of the voters.
So do you think the voters thought Honorable Odote was competent?
Logic and critical thinking. Well, I think he could have done enough, more than he delivered, like I said. Looking at the reach of the constituency, okay, and the amount of investment within the constituency, okay, and again the amount of engagement.
Okay, so you think that's where he failed? He didn't engage enough. I mean, as a lecturer, marking him.
Yes, that's one of the multiple reasons why he might have fallen. But then I have learned a lot to be more engaging, okay, and more accountable to the people and open up, the basket for space, people to have, okay, access to, the system.
Okay. So there's a follow-up question. Same person says, is it a question of Honorable Odote and the MPP failing DADEKOTOPON?
Not at all. If you come to the constituency, well, there are some interventions that are actually engineered by central government through the assembly. Those projects are there. Nobody is complaining. Like I said, the government has actually expanded classroom infrastructure in all the secondary school facilities within the constituency. Look at talk of Laboni Secondary School, Aquinas, Burma Camp, and then La Presec. So those are initiatives by the government. And again, there are some drainage projects that have been initiated by the government. The government has also cut sword for the initiation of a vocational and technical training center. So as for the track record of the president, it's not in doubt at all within the constituency.
Let me take you to your field of academic interest. Public sector policy management is something you're strong on. I've been looking at the publications that you are responsible for. Quite a few. You've studied banking, the utilities, but there's one that is really interesting to me: public sector accountability in a quandary, a path towards renaissance. I mean, you are passionate about public sector accountability. I mean, when you look at Ghana's public sector, how do you assess it? Are they really accounting for their performance?
Well, so that paper was born out of a problem we all face today. You know, there are laws. In fact, it was an interesting paper I presented to Mr. Nim, what was his name, the security expert. And we had a lot of banter.
Professor Enin.
Kwesi Enin. Yeah, we have laws. We have a lot of laws that actually make corruption a crime. We also have institutions of the state, the police, the Auditor General's Department, Procurement Act, name them, and the Public Accounts Committee that can subpoena anybody to appear before it on grounds of, you know, malfeasance and mismanagement of public funds. But then accountability continues, the corruption continues to fester in public sector institutions. So I came up with an alternative that we should look at the structures, the bureaucratic procedures by which decisions are made within the governance machinery. We should be able to sunshine decision making. It should be transparent to people. We should volunteer information about how decisions are made. The decisions and non-decisions, the actions and inactions of public officials should be made visibly known to the public. And that's in that way, and there should be checks for people to blow the whistle when they find anything wrong with any decision. And on the basis of that, we can be able to nip accountability or corruption in the bud, rather than waiting for crimes to be actually perpetrated, and then the external bodies, institutions will come and investigate, and laws will come and apply. As to whether those laws see finality, we are not even aware. So I wanted a preventative system rather than a curative one.
Yes, so prevent it before it
occurs.
Cure it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just before you wrap up, I'm just thinking, so, well, your desire is to win the election, but if you don't win, what next?
Okay, so elections are won on the basis of the message and then the appeal of the individual to the people. The president, for example, moving from the president, it appears to be pretty obvious that the president has delivered, and the people of Ghana are going to reward him with another term.
And Tasowa will think otherwise. Your opponent from the NDC.
I can speak for myself. And so, drawing strength from the performance of the president, I'm sure the people of La would want somebody who can work with the president, so that the policy decisions of the president and the government can translate into the constituency. And
if you don't win, what will you do?
Well, I have not, considering the amount of work and the euphoria, the frenzy within the constituency, and their yearning to have their son, Gerald NYANYOFIO, to serve them in parliament, that is an unlikely event.
Your election was just delegates, and now you're talking of the 200 and something thousand people who will be voting.
It was actually
fear voters, not fear delegates.
It was
fear
actually,
voters in December.
It was actually the voters who sent a signal
to the delegates. Okay. Who do you look up to in politics, and what's your final message for the people of Lada?
Okay, so one political icon I really want to eulogize, so to speak, is when I look at the president as a lawyer, a young lawyer, and how he has been able to, you know, groom an army of lawyers today who are contributing to our nation building, some of whom are now in the Supreme Court and all that. The likes of Asante Bedeto and all the gurus you can think of having come from his chambers, knowing that a leader is somebody who can inspire you to be more, to become more, and do more. I feel that his mark is very exemplary, and every young would-be politician should look up to him.
So he's your hero?
He's my hero.
All right. Message for your people?
Well, on the basis of what I have just said, they should give the president the much needed second term in office so that he can bring his vision to bear on the development of the constituency. And on the back of that, support me to win the election so that I can give the president the much needed help in government.
Thank you very much. It's Joseph Gerald TETTEH NYANYOFIO. He's the MPP's parliamentary candidate for the good people of DADEKOTOPON. Former banker, currently a lecturer, and hopefully would like to represent the people in the election come December 7, 2020. We'll see how that plays out. My name is Kafui Dey. Thank you very much for giving me your eyeballs for this show. We meet again next time, God willing, on The Next MP.